Welcome back to United USA 2020. The battle of good versus evil is lifelong, and here's an update on the circumstances of the Texas school shooter and the circumstances surrounding it of the police response. Checking out videos I was watching were about the timeline. I shared a video a couple days ago about the timeline out in Texas school shooter situation, why the cops took so long and why they were told to stand down and not go in. Just found out they're talking about that they didn't have ballistic shields, right? Why the hell does law enforcement not have ballistic shields? I have no idea. But what I do know is that they should have had ballistic shields.
Regardless though, according to the official account, the initial official account, he gets to the school, crashes his vehicle in a ditch. He has some kind of an encounter with a guard. He then enters the school and begins killing children. And then only a full hour later is the shooter killed by the police. And so the big obvious question here is, why exactly did it take so long for the police to neutralize him? To start with, it appears that the shooter did not just crash his vehicle and go directly into the school building. Instead, according to new reports, what actually happened was that he stayed outside of the school for 12 full minutes, firing shots at the funeral home across the street. Here's how the updated timeline of events was broken down by the Wall Street Journal. Quote, Ramos shot his grandmother Tuesday morning and drove her truck to Robb Elementary School, crashing the vehicle into a nearby ditch at 11:28 a.m. He then began shooting at people at a funeral home across the street, prompting a 911 call reporting a gunman at the school at 11:30. Ramos climbed a chain-link fence about 8 feet high onto school grounds and began firing before walking inside unimpeded at 11:40. The first police arrived on the scene at 11:44 and exchanged gunfire with Ramos, who locked himself in a 4th grade classroom. There, he killed the students and teachers. Furthermore, although initially the police said that an armed school officer confronted the shooter when he first arrived on school grounds, that appears to not have been the case, as we just read. That's because just yesterday, Mr. Escalon, who is the regional director of the Department of Public Safety down in southern Texas, he said that in reality, no one encountered the shooter when he arrived at the school. Here is his exact quote. There was not an officer readily available and armed. Furthermore, the shooter was able to walk right into the school building because reportedly the door to the school was unlocked, after which he went into the classroom, barricaded himself in, and began his massacre. And this is where, in terms of the police response, things begin to break down a bit. Because after the shooter began his rampage, it took somewhere between 40 minutes and 1 full hour for him to eventually be shot by a Border Patrol agent. It might actually have to do with a lack of proper equipment. In fact, according to sources that spoke under the condition of anonymity with Breitbart News, it appears that it was a lack of ballistic shields which stopped the agents from breaking into that room. Here's specifically what their report said, quote, multiple law enforcement sources revealed to Breitbart, Texas, that part of the delay in stopping the barricaded elementary school shooter hinged on a deadly mix of the shooter's defensive tactics and the lack of needed gear. Specifically, officers lacked the ballistic shield needed to enter the classroom with the barricaded shooter. Attempting to breach the door without a ballistic shield would have resulted in certain death for the officers, which could have provided the shooter with the officers' weapons and ammunition. There's also the possibility that the shooter could have taken police communications gear off the officers' bodies, thereby giving the shooter the ability to listen to police movement and plans. And then another Border Patrol agent who's quoted in this article, who's actually part of the tactical team who eventually shot the shooter, well, he added this, quote, if the subject can effectively take out an officer, he gains one more weapon. More loaded magazines and law enforcement communications are instantly compromised, allowing the suspect to know what the next plan of attack is. And then furthermore, another official who spoke with Breitbart for the story, he said that for one, small-town police departments lack the necessary equipment due to funding issues, and that secondly, at least in his opinion, well, the premise that police officers on the scene were too afraid to enter is false. Here's specifically what he said, quote, our officers had their own children in the building, one of whom was killed. We wanted to end this as badly as anyone else.
Oh, what do y'all think about that? That's crazy, right? So not only we have something horrific happen, but we see a failure from our law enforcement whose job is to protect us. Very sad. Very shameful what happened. And people's lives are changed forever because of it. And ultimately, we can't change the past now. So now we got to look forward to solutions, figure out what happened, and make sure that something like this doesn't happen again in the way that it does. Quick response from law enforcement in times like this with a mass shooter. Messed up situation, man. My thoughts and prayers are definitely with the family, and I hope they find some sort of meaning out of it. I don't know what that'll be, but May God help them. I'm going to go ahead and leave a link to the full video. Like I said, again, much respect to Roman, Epoch Times. Y'all are doing it good, man. Straight up. I'll check y'all in the next video.